I was having a bit of a nightmare about this, a waking morning nightmare, because I was remembering all the good things you said last time. I thought, oh, I've got to make sure we get those again. So we are, I'm going to say, back in the studio with Chris Conway because thanks to the gods of the internet, this is our second attempt. So, Chris, thank you so much for persevering, for coming back to the studio, and maybe just tell everyone who you are and where you work.
Hi, yeah, I'm Chris Conway. I look after the e-commerce businesses at Co-op Food.
That's a very brief and succinct intro. So tell us more about why that's really impressive. Co-op food, how big,
Yeah,
where be it?
sure.
Most people have a co-op near them.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I joined the Co-op in 2018, so I've been there nearly 3 years, and I was tasked with really trying to start and understand our journey in the digital space because we were a late mover in selling food online, so we didn't have any online businesses. So it's been a fantastic and enthralling journey of building up a number of small, relatively small businesses at the time, but obviously our growth has exploded in the last 12 months. Along with the market growth, really, and it's been a fascinating journey. I guess before joining the co-op, I spent a couple of years at Morrison's running their online business, and then I spent 14 years at Asda before that time. Started out in retail stores, a shopkeeper, and then for my sins, spent the last 10 years of my time at Asda in the e-commerce world, eventually looking after the commercial side of that online business as well, quite a large e-commerce online business. So overall, I've been in e-commerce grocery retailing for about 15 years now.
So, Chris, look, it's a lot of people in ecom come from a technology or a marketing background, but you've really done soup to nuts across the gamut of grocers. What perspective do you think that gives you now that you're in charge of ecom? Are you a different type of ecom director than you would have been had you come from a marketing or technology background, or am I just making that up?
No, I think that's probably true, Ian. I'm really proud of the fact that I'm a shopkeeper at heart, and I say that a lot internally because I think that resonates with a lot of people who generally run grocery businesses. So ultimately, the role of selling baked beans is similar, whether you're selling them online or whether you're selling them in a shop. Essentially, we're just trying to sell stuff to customers, and we're trying to sell more of it, and we're trying to sell it in more exciting and interesting ways. Uh,
Mm.
so I think that really does help. I think obviously throughout my career, I've experienced marketing roles and experienced technology roles, and run large tech projects and stuff like that. So I think that's been a kind of bit of experience that I've earned and learned along the way. But I think at the core, it's an operator. It's getting products from A to B, and then eventually to the consumer. So I think that's really what's important. And I think what's really hard about grocery online retailing is the profitability of the channel, and that really comes
Mm.
down to making as much money out of each individual product. You've got to move product from a warehouse or a store via a courier or via a delivery provider to a customer, and there are various costs associated along the way of the life of that product. And I think if you can get a really sound understanding of that, I think then you can make this work. Uh, that's even
Yeah.
before you get to acquiring customers and converting customers and all the sexy, nice stuff that we absolutely love to talk about and do and gets a load of plaudits internally. But essentially, it's a product game, I think.
It's interesting you say that because in our coverage of the grocery sector, we have commented a number of times that this is when operations comes from behind the scenes to take center stage and a curtain call. And we've noted over the whole COVID and multi-lockdown period uh, that no one seems surprised that grocers haven't broken. How was it that you were prepared, coming, if you like, relatively late to the game, but yet nothing broke? Thankfully, you were ready for it. How was that?
Yeah, I think actually we're in advantage here, Ian, because we were building our business and we built it from the ground up really. So we built it in a very future focused way. And the technology stack that we built in terms of our cloud infrastructure, kind of, the fact that we're able to kind of add capacity and almost kind of tag on microservices when we need has meant that we've been able to react really quickly. So for 2020, we already had an aggressive plan of opening stores. So, I know I've spoken to you before, Ian, but I think at the start of 2020, we had a big partnership with Deliveroo where we were picking out of 200 stores. We also had our own e-commerce business, which had just come out of trial really in 2019, and we were picking out of 32 stores.
Good timing.
So in total, it was 230 stores. We had a quite aggressive plan to add about 300 stores on in 2020, which would have taken us to over 500 stores at the end of 2020. And because of the pandemic and because of the extra pressures on capacity and the increased customer demand, we were able to pivot that really quite quickly. And because we had a proven kind of opening model, we've got over 2,600 locations across the UK as a Co-op, and some of them are relatively small stores and some of them are relatively large stores. So we have to be quite nimble in terms of how we operate and how we land this proposition. But essentially, we were able to roll out really fast. So we've exited the year picking out of over 1,000 locations now. So, from an original plan of 300, we've gone to 1,000, which obviously has meant that we've increased capacity, tenfold during that period of time. So therefore, we were able to cope with demand. I think what was probably most difficult is looking at the operation in store, because essentially it comes down to what a colleague does on a day-to-day basis, and because of the changing customer habits in the physical space. And you'll know this from walking around the centre of London. If you walked around a year ago, the Co-op would have been full of people grabbing their lunch, and it's absolute chaos in some of the stores, and the footfall is tremendous. And you'll go in the same stores now, and you'll be lucky to see 2 or 3 people wandering around some of these central London stores, and that's just a change in the way that people have started to operate and shop. And therefore, it's meant that the hours that we had in store and the colleagues we had in store that were previously supporting customers in store, actually we've had to change their tasks and change their roles quite significantly. So now actually they've turned to the online channel and task. So we've had to train colleagues quite quickly. We've had to be quite nimble about how we do that and use remote resources to do that. But actually our operational base and our retail colleagues have done a tremendous job in being able to change what they do. And as well as that, we've managed to increase our sales in some of these stores over time. I think at the start of the pandemic, I think our top store was maybe doing 5% of online sales, of their sales through online. And, we're breaking the record barriers almost weekly as we speak. And we've got some stores over the 30%, 40% mark now, where, they're almost becoming kind of, they're almost to the 50% online fulfillment center stage. And it's brilliant because, we've been able to really leverage the physical assets that we've got, which has really helped.
Let's talk about profitability, because you mentioned this right at the beginning. Typically, from my naive external perspective, I would have thought the best way to make money out of grocery is £300 weekly shops at a solid margin delivered in a dense urban area. I would not have picked small shops, small baskets, with lack of predictability in and out of a local store with variable stock. So it sounds like you're profit focused, you're operational focused, but you've picked a really hard way of making money. So why do you have this local picking model rather than going with big dark stores or big picking centres and going the sort of industrial way? Why is that?
Yeah, I mean, really, when I joined the Co-op, having spent, like I said before, time at Morrison's and Asda, which is more traditional kind of big box retailing, I think I spent the first kind of 4 or 5 months spend a lot of time with our leadership team, a lot of time with our executive team, but also a lot of time in our stores, and really trying to understand the business and understand the customers and how they were different. And I think I quickly realised that if we were to be successful in the online space, the last thing we wanted to do was to replicate what was already there in terms of the big box model. And having run large P&Ls in that space before, I absolutely understand the mindset of what we really need to do is get customers to spend quite a lot of money ideally we need 60% of their basket to be ambient, 30% of it to be chilled, and the rest to be frozen, so we can fit it in the van nice and carefully, and we can get as many orders in the van as possible. And then ideally we need them all on the same street so we can drop them off at the same time every day. And there are various methods in which you can incentivize customers to do that, whether that's on site or through delivery charging. So absolutely, that's what you would normally do in this space. And I think what I tried to do is turn that on its head and say, actually, if we allow the customers to choose how they shop rather than letting the retailer choose how they shop, what will happen? Can we break the barrier almost? Can we kind of break this ceiling of penetration in grocery, which I think has been kind of strangled a little bit in the last few years, where it hasn't grown as much as it should. And when you compare it to other retail sectors, it's been relatively slow growth, I would say, in online food, although obviously it's a huge market. It was stuck at around the 7% penetration mark, and it might have gone to 7.5 last year with a fair wind, which is still good growth, but isn't really setting the world alight. And my vision was, if we let customers choose how they shop, can we get a bigger share of their wallet? Can we get them to shop more frequently? And if you look at the frequency of online shopping grocery, it's quite a frequent thing that you do. But when I say quite frequent, it's probably a couple of times a month. So actually, you're only getting the benefit of that customer a couple of times a month, and they're shopping elsewhere in between to top up. So my vision really was to say, the Co-op is a convenience retailer. We do really well at some great mission, the top-up mission, the meal for tonight. And if we can bring that to consumers, so actually they can pick up their phone, they can order, and it can come in 30 minutes in some cases, or in 2 hours in other cases. And, I don't have to spend £40. I can spend 15 actually, which we've got a minimum order on our own e-commerce platform, but zero on Deliveroo. And essentially, you're right. There's a real challenge and a bit of a kind of leap of faith here to say, customers will spend a little bit more than that because they like the service and they're used to the service. The way we set up operationally in store is that it's a variable task like anything else. So, we haven't got rafts of people in our stores constantly doing a specific job. So where you go into a big box retail, you'll have a checkout operator and you'll have someone filling a particular aisle. Yeah. You'll have someone else picking online orders. And that isn't how it works at our stores. All our colleagues are able to do most jobs. If they need to bake some stuff or they need to serve a customer or they need to fill up a shelf, they're able to do that. And equally, through the use of technology in our stores, we've got an application called Task Manager, which effectively manages our colleagues' tasks on a daily basis. And this is kind of a real-time kind of list of stuff they have to do. And we've been able to make sure that we interrupt that application with our online ordering as well. So actually, in some stores, and this was the vision, in some stores, if that store gets 2 orders a day, that's okay. That's not a problem because the fixed cost of this operation is quite minimal. So, if 2 customers a day decide to order from that store and they want it delivered, the colleague can divert their task to pick the order quickly. We can pay a third-party courier to deliver it at a fixed cost, depending on how far they are away from the shop. And therefore, we can really manage our cost base quite carefully because, we only incur cost if we get an order. We haven't got this kind of raft of fixed costs. And had we invested in a dark store or fulfillment center, we'd almost be starting at a kind of base that meant that we have to pay for that depreciation. The first million orders would have paid for that depreciation almost. So, I think the idea here was, we start small but really we start quite nimble and we do what we're best at, and that we're serving local customers because we're really close to them. Our Co-op food strategy is about being closer to the customer. And historically, that's been about physically closer. So, what shops do we want to build or do we want to buy or acquire? And actually, we've spun that on its head and said, actually, it's not just about our physical stores. It's about actually what's our online reach. And, again, if we surveyed the UK and said, actually, how many stores does Co-op really need to make sure we're really close to every single customer? Like I've already said, we've got over 2,500. We probably need a couple of thousand more. In reality, because we want to be within maybe 400, 600 meters of every single customer, and that would cost a hell of a lot of money and probably isn't possible. So actually, what online does, it gives us that extra reach from every store, so we're touching new customers. And it might mean in the future that actually where we're looking, where we might want to build a store, actually we don't need to build a store because we've covered that conurbation or density of population from our reach. But back to your point about profitability, I think it's all in the margins, Ian. It's all in the very, very small bit per order. And if you can make as many of the costs variable as possible, and I think and move the products as effectively as possible, I think there's a real route to profitability here. But I mean, obviously, it comes with scale as well. So this isn't a day one profitability money tree. Absolutely not. But I do think we at scale we've got a great business here, and I think it's one that our customers have really loved. And that growth obviously accelerated in the last 8 months. So we're able to tick off some of our assumptions a lot quicker than we thought, which is encouraging.
Is there a ceiling on what you can actually achieve on the convenience factor for your customers? You're obviously committed to making it as simple as possible for them to order, whether it's online or in the store or be there, however they want to do it. But, that comes with that is operational costs, the complexity of doing all of this sort of stuff. Is there a ceiling to that, or do you really think that you can achieve anything?
I don't think there's the ceiling, because I think ultimately there's a market out there, and people are deciding how they want to shop. And I think although the pandemic has changed patterns somewhat, so there's going to be lots more work to be done to see how the market will react in the next few years. I think what I learned from the market data pre-COVID is that customers were operating in the online world very, very similar to how they were operating in the physical world. When I was a kid, we'd go to the local shop on a Thursday evening as a family. We'd fill 2 trolleys up, and that would be us from a week perspective. And we know that's just not how people are shopping now. People are changing in the physical sense, and as a business, Coop has benefited from that changing behaviour. And I do believe that's what we'll see online. And there's shoots of that in the market data. Pre-COVID, 4 or 5 years market data of basket going down online and frequency going up as people are changing the way they view it, how they shop online. So, I think, is there a ceiling? No, because we've got 2,600 stores. I mentioned that a few times, but it really is the crux of how we want to operate. And we've opened stores now. So in central London, within the M25, we've got over 250 stores as a business. And as people's shopping habits change, the use of those physical stores is going to change as well.
And is the customer changing as well? Because I have an emotional link to the Co-op, because when I was but a wee young lad growing up in the valleys of South Wales, then I'd go shopping with my gran to the local Co-op and get the Green Shield stamps, and everyone knew everyone, blah, blah, blah. What is your customer, and has that changed? And is that change permanent or just a temporary artifact of COVID?
Yeah, I think it is changing. I think you're right. I think from a demographic perspective, our customers tend to be older. That's for sure. And I think historically,
you can see me and Jamie going, older. What's older?
Yeah.
We're in that segment.
Yeah, I'm being polite. Yeah, older than our competitors. That's for sure.
I'll back up your point, Chris, though. I think shout out to the Great Bookham Co-op in Surrey, because they've been a lifeline for my parents-in-law whilst during this process, during this period. So I think, spot on.
Yeah. And recently, Jamie, you've been allowed back in the store after those unfortunate incidents.
We shan't discuss those again, Ian.
Yeah, I did hear about that on the grapevine, but I thought I'd best not bring it up in this session. I think historically our customers have been older, and I think it is a absolute strategy of ours to change that over time. And I think if you go into some of our new stores that we've opened in the last few years, I think you see a massive step change in technology and customer offer, and that has been ensuring and introducing our service to younger customers. And I think that's been a big bonus. I think also physically we've been investing a lot in the younger customer anyway. So our links with the NUS and student beans, etc., are really great. We offer all students 10% discount in our stores with their NUS, and that's worked really well. We've got a number of stores on university campuses across the UK, and we've got a number of franchises that the NUS have invested in with Co-op. where you've got co-op goods and services on student campuses. So that's really helping reintroduce co-op. And again, a lot of students I've spoken to at careers fairs and stuff like that, they've said to me exactly what you said, Ian. I used to go in the co-op with my mum and dad. I remember going in, but I haven't been in for years. And actually, once they go in, especially in one of the newer stores, they kind of they kind of almost kind of reimagine what it was like, and it's brilliant because it's really easy. The products are great, the quality is fantastic. We win lots of awards and all that kind of stuff, which is great. Also, I think the work we've done on festivals in the last couple of years as well. I know we haven't had any festivals during COVID, but pre-COVID, we had a co-op shop at 9 festivals in 2019, including Glastonbury, where hundreds of thousands of revelers enjoyed visiting the co-op and going off with their co-op hemp bags and keeping them for life and tweeting about what a fantastic experience they've had. All these things are absolutely not by accident, but certainly our online introduction, our business introduction into online is absolutely targeting the customers that are on the go. The people that are shopping frequently a couple of times a week, and they're a bit probably time poor, or they were time poor. So our demographics of customer online are significantly younger when compared to our store customers. Although actually in the marketplace, the biggest growth in customers is in the older customer.
Interesting. Well, look, let's maybe then link on from that back to Deliveroo, but also at the same time, you haven't got everything in one basket, if you excuse the pun. You're doing trials with Pinga in East London and Buy Me in Bristol. So, firstly, tell me about these partnerships with local delivery, and then why are you having all of these trials going on, and what's the strategy behind multiple partners? So Deliveroo, and then we'll talk the other partners.
Yeah, I think really it started when having spent this kind of 4 or 5 months in the co-op and understanding the business. There's no getting away from it. We were late to the party, and we had to look at how we move volume online really, really quickly, and setting up your own e-commerce business and your own technology stack, an e-commerce platform and the capability to do it takes some time. So at the time, Deliveroo was an opportunity to partner with someone on quite a small scale initially. So we started a 5-store trial in Manchester, and we trialed 300 products, predominantly kind of beers, wines and spirits and confectionery, that kind of mission, just to see if customers liked it and if they ordered. And the quick answer is they really did like it, and we quickly changed that relationship to be a more strategic partnership. So at the start of kind of middle of 2019, I worked really closely with Deliveroo. They're a fantastic partner, and we agreed a more strategic partnership where we were their convenience strategic partner almost. And what it meant was we agreed a enhanced accelerated rollout, and also we were able to influence their product roadmap to try and move them a little bit, to ensure that the functionality on their application was equally favorable to grocery products as it is to kind of takeaway products. And there's been some enhancements in the last 6 to 12 months that have really helped us with that. But effectively, what it really means is it gives us access to lots of new customers immediately. It means we can showcase our great co-op products and shift product quite quickly. Because of our locations around the UK, we were able to effectively go wherever Deliveroo go, and wherever they've got last mile capability. So the relative ease of us doing that, it wasn't easy, it was tough. And opening, I think we're at nearly 600 stores with them now. That isn't as straightforward as it sounds. There's a bit of work involved in that, but actually we've enhanced the range tremendously, done lots of tests. We've got over 1,000 products now live on the Deliveroo platform. They're priced differently to store as well, and that's partly due to the cost of doing business with a partner. So we don't pass all the cost on to the consumer, but certainly in some categories you'll pay more for products and for the convenience of getting it straight away. And the average order on Deliveroo takes 25 minutes from kind of clicking checkout, going to the co-op, picking it, and getting to the front door. So and the missions we see on Deliveroo are quite different. at 10 o'clock at night, the products that people buy are a little bit different to what they do at 9 a.m. in the morning, where we get the kind of breakfast rush. And, we are seeing lots of that kind of behaviour on Deliveroo. And Deliveroo absolutely is a key part of our strategy, certainly in the long term, I think. Our partners are a key part of our strategy, should I say, in the long term, because I think a healthy mix of channels and a healthy mix of partners not only spreads the risk, but means we can accelerate faster and have access to more customers. And, we've done lots of internal measurement of the business we're doing with Deliveroo. And we believe most of it is incremental and supporting our overall business strategy. So, we're pleased with that. In terms of the other trials, what we're really keen to do, and because we're able to do this, is we're able to move really, really quickly with all new partners. So where we see there's something exciting out there, we do want to be part of it, and we want to be in at the ground. A, to share the data and share the learnings, but B, to try and give some of these people a bit of a lift and a leg up in the market. So, Buy Me is a really interesting one, because they've done really, really well in the Republic of Ireland, and they did a fantastic job in Dublin, and they've expanded with Duns across the Republic, and they were keen to set up a base in the UK, very kind of Instacart kind of model. And again, we were keen to partner with them and learn along with them. So, the stores that we opened in Bristol in partnership with them have been relatively successful. So we're monitoring that trial. The Pinga one in East London is a bit different, because there we are, rather than having a kind of traditional, I call it traditional, it's not really traditional, but apart from having the kind of Deliveroo Buy Me model, which is a technology platform and self-employed couriers, Pinga is a bit more kind of community focused, I would say, in the fact that, you don't have to be a courier, you don't have to work long hours. You can kind of turn yourself on as a Pinga partner for an hour or two, and then do a couple of local jobs, and then turn yourself off. And I think that kind of community kind of gives something back. If you go into the shop, I'll have a coffee from Starbucks, and you can get me these two things from the Co-op, I think was quite interesting for us. So again, we're learning bits and pieces there, but it's a relatively small trial. And the other really interesting trial that I call it a trial, but we've been working with them for 2 years now, is Starship Technologies in Milton Keynes, where there we've been doing completely autonomous deliveries for quite a while now, and we've expanded that service recently as well.
I can feel some of our listeners who are startups or technology suppliers are fainting and then reaching for their keyboards to start mailing you now, because this is a very different partnership approach. I want to learn together. I want to give them a leg up.
To be honest, Ian, in the last 12 months, I've probably spoken to about 15 to 20 similar types of businesses. And I think I'm absolutely happy to do that. I think that's an important part of my job, important part of my role. And if I was to ask the CEO of our business, was that part of my job, they would say yes, because when I report back to the board, I need to let them know what's going on in the market. I need to let them know who's winning, who's losing, what's innovative, what's new. Should we be part of it? And if I think we should be part of it, then I absolutely will do everything I can to enable that to happen. And the leg up bit is a bit about being a co-op as well. It's about cooperating. Our mission. I don't know if you're one for visions, Ian, but our vision is cooperating for a fairer world. And believe it or not, we're all targeted on that personally. So I think my role in that is to look at how we help startups, how we look to innovate. And I think we haven't got time to talk about it today, but we have a building in Manchester called Federation, which is where our digital product teams are based. But what we also do is we open up that space to local digital startups in the Manchester area, on a kind of not for profit rent basis. And we've done that for a number of years. This isn't my my idea, by the way. This is something that existed before I joined the Co-op, but it's a fantastic.
It is great.
Do. And I think we've always been keen to do that. And we've learned lots from it, and it's enabled us to move forward.
Yeah, I'll take that as an invitation so that we'll come up.
No, I think we're full at the moment.
Ian. JB.
Thanks, Ian. So, Chris, I was just thinking about all those partnerships and any other of these cool trials you're doing. How much do you consider the loyalty factor when you are considering whether to roll out or stop, as it were? And generally, how big a role does loyalty play within the Co-op offering?
Yeah, I mean, we're a cooperative, so we're a member-owned business. So we don't have a loyalty scheme as such, but we have a membership scheme. So you pay £1 to be a co-op member, which effectively means you own part of the business. And obviously, if you spend over £250 a year with us, you get invited to our AGM, and you get a vote, and you vote in our executive directors, etc. So I think that's really important to us. Obviously, like any scheme, in inverted commas, as being a membership scheme, our members are our most loyal customers. They shop more frequently, they generally spend more with us, and absolutely, they're the ones that help us decide where the community money goes. So by being a member, it means that every co-op product you buy, a percentage of that, so 2% of that value goes into the local community fund for that store, half of which goes to the local causes that our local members pick. The other half goes to other causes that's decided by a membership council. So, I think loyalty is important, but we certainly don't call it loyalty internally. These are our members, and they're our most loyal customers, and we're there to serve them, and we are a commercial business. We need to make money, and the reason we need to make money is so we exist for our members, and that's how we operate. So it is
because Emma wrote a story. I think last month or something that said that you'd introduced a membership app that had been downloaded, I don't know, 1 million times or something within the year. So what is it you're offering them in the app that is so persuasive to them?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, it's a way of them keeping abreast of their balance. So when they spend in the co-op, they're able to use they're able to use the app as a digital card, so they don't need to carry the physical card around, which is a big bonus. They're also able to track how much is going to the local cause and how much is going into their digital wallet, which is fantastic. And also, they're able to pick and change their local causes within the app. Also, every week there's a selection of personalised offers for every member as well. So on a Monday, you'll get a push notification, and you're able to select 2 or 3 offers from a list of offers that have been personally selected for you. And obviously, that means that you're using the app more regularly, more frequently. You're able to peruse the offers, and some of those offers are your traditional X amount off a basket, and some of them are 50p off a certain group of products or a product. And I think that breeds the frequency and loyalty, and that's important across not just online but all our business. And introducing the e-commerce shopping experience into that app is a big project for us, and one that landing very, very shortly. So we're quite excited about that as well.
Is there a critical sort of KPI that you put down that relates to membership, as in that it's good for membership, that it's helping its members out? Is that one of the key ways in which you judge one of these partnerships over and above? Does it pay for itself? Is it efficient? All those other things that you might think about.
The easiest way of explaining it is it's our mission to give more people access to the co-op. So by these trials and not just these trials, but the festivals that I already spoke about, the new franchises within our NUS partnership, the wholesale customers we now supply, following our acquisition of Nice. So we also supply over 4,000 independent shops with co-op products now. So you can go into your Cost Cutter or your Nicer and find co-op products in there. So all that is around actually sharing out co-op products and getting people more access to them and getting them to try them, because we really believe they're fantastic. So the more we can do that online as well, the better.
Thanks for that, Chris. Now we've talked tangentially about values and ethics and so on, and I just want to maybe pick up on fair trade and the supply chain security and so on. That obviously the co-op has, not just recently, but for decades, been involved with. So how do you get involved with things like traceability, transparency, ensuring your supply chain is not just efficient, but also ethical? Does that fall under your remit, or how do you work with the teams there?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't fall under my remit, Ian, no. But I mean, we have a fantastic team who looks after that. So I think you probably know that the co has a long-standing commitment to fair
Mhm.
trade. So
Very
whether
long.
that's in coffee or chocolate and things like that. So we do believe we're a true kind of industry leader in that space. Also in sustainability as well. I think from a supply chain perspective, we've got a very large team who work for our commercial, our kind of chief commercial officer, that ensures the traceability of all our products. And things like on meat, where we were the only supermarket to have completely British meat.
And are you seeing online that people are using that for choice?
Yeah, I think we're seeing that grow. Obviously, it's growing at a large pace, but from a really small base, I would say. So it's still not the overriding thing that
Interesting.
customers are searching for, but it's certainly more than twice as important as it was at this time last year. So I think that there's a real accelerated curve of that, and I think it will become more important in the next few years. That's for sure.
Yeah. Okay, well, look, we have covered a lot today, and I really appreciate your candor and also so lucid. Literally, you've just been writing my articles for me, so thank you for that. What is it that you're thinking, I can't wait to crack on with Project X or Program Y? What's the exciting thing, the cherry on your cake for 2021?
Yeah, this is where I've got to be careful about what I share. And we've got. You've seen from what we've done in the last 12 months,
it's just me, Jamie, and our one listener.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so I think we're going to accelerate. We're going to put our foot down, and although we're in over 1,000 stores, we've got another 1,600 stores to get after. So there's some basic targets we've got there to give more people access to the service. So we're really going to get on that. I think also there's some remote areas where we've done a good job this year of some of the islands in Scotland and the Isle of Scilly and the Isle of Man, etc. We've done a good job of supporting those communities during COVID and turning on the service. But we want to continue that good work across the rest of the UK, which we're quite excited about. We've got lots of technology enhancements to make it easier. I think I don't make any apologies probably for the last 18 months being focused on access to the service, and we've focused a lot of our technology and a lot of our mindset onto making sure that more people can access the service. I think 2021 will be much more around the engagement of our customers and the customer experience that they encounter whilst shopping with the co-op. And I think internally, the biggest challenge for me is how I support the transformation of the business. So, I think I mentioned this to you before, but I do see my role as a transformer in chief, I think I like to call it, where, I need to work really, really closely with our executive team internally and our leaders internally to see how to see what the operating model should look like in the future, because it's clearly got to change. Our supply chain has got to change, our distribution has got to change, our retail operating model has to change. The way we recruit customers, the way we recruit colleagues, the way we train. I think there's such a lot to get after, and we've, as a business, we've been around over 175 years now, and we've done a lot of good things in that time, and we've got a lot of good processes in place. But actually, I think we need to step change the way we operate as a business to make sure that we're fitter for the future. And luckily, our CEO is spearheading that change and is the biggest flag bearer for that change. So I'm pushing against an open door, but I very much see it as my role to be the instigator and the challenger in that internally. So that's probably the biggest thing for me personally.
Wonderful. Well, that sounds like a full 2021. So, Chris, I appreciate you giving us many attempts to record this. So, massive thanks for your perseverance, but also your openness. I think behind all the engineering prowess, grocers in the last year in particular have become essential workers, frontline staff, and I think a beacon of where values and commerce and community can all come together. So a massive thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure as ever chatting to you. So we wish you every success in those projects the rest of the year. Thank you so much, Chris.
No problem. Thank you very much. Speak to you soon.